Hello, my name is Jason Berger. I'm a disabled retired police officer from the city of Independence, Ohio. I'm 47 years old, and I was diagnosed with a rare form of brain cancer called primary central nervous system lymphoma. It generally affects people with AIDS, HIV, have had an organ transplant, or elderly that will make them all immune compromised. For me to get this disease is very rare. This disease generally starts in the eyes and moves to the brain, where mine went from the brain and moved to the eyes. I'm completely blind in my left eye. I was given 2 years to live, and this past September 27th was 14 years. In those 14 years, I've had 5 occurrences, the last one being about a month and a half ago. And the one prior to that was about a year ago, and I was sleeping 15 to 20 hours a day. I lost 2 inches off my neck, 4 inches off my chest, 4 inches off my waist, over 50 pounds I lost. I was sleeping 15 to 20 hours a day, and I called my doctor, and he says, get to the hospital. Well, foolishly, I decided to drive to the closest hospital, Marymount, right across the 40 Bridge. I had no business driving. I get in the parking lot. I start to walk to the ER. I fall down in the parking lot. I think to myself, are you kidding me? So I struggled to get up. And then, I'm sorry, backing up. I had a walker. I couldn't walk. My walker, I fell in the kitchen. I was so weak I couldn't get up. I finally struggled to get up, and that's when I called my doctor. So fast forward back to the parking lot, and I get up there. I stumble through the ER doors. They grab me in a wheelchair, wheel me back. CAT scan shows a mass in my brain. I go down to the clinic where they've been treating for the last 13 plus years. MRI shows 6 lesions on my brain, one of which is on my brainstem, which is making me so sleepy and having the balance issues. And I swore I'd never do chemo again, but that was the closest I ever came to dying and the most scared I ever was. So I have to do chemo. But the other thing I did was cannabis oil. It's called FECO, full extract cannabis oil, or a lot of people call it RSO, Rick Simpson oil. I've decided to, this time, load up on it. I make my own suppositories, I make my own Rick Simpson oil, and I've been doing what they're calling microdosing throughout the day. They tell you to start off with about half a grain size of rice. I've been doing maybe a quarter grain of rice because I've built up such a tolerance, and I think the smaller doses, more times throughout the day, is a steadier system. I'm really not sure about how the CB1 and CB2 receptors work with the endocannabinoid system. That was discovered in the early 90s by Dr. Raphael Mechoulam in Israel, who's leading the world on cancer and cannabis research. Dr. Mechoulam discovered that every mammal on a planet has what's called an ECS. It stands for endocannabinoid system. Just regulates just about everything in the body. Consequently, the cannabis plant has over 200 cannabinoids that are found on the plant. There's only one cannabinoid, THC, that creates a psychoactive effect, and that's only after it's heated. All these other cannabinoids, they say, work synergistically work together, what they're calling the entourage effect. And all these cannabinoids work together and hit those receptor sites in the CB1 in the brain and the CB2 in the peripheral. There is more CB1 receptors in the brain than all other receptors in the body. That is why cannabis works so well on brain cancers. It's all anecdotal, but I just literally a couple days ago discovered a woman named Mara Gordon. She's out of California, and she has been able to, not as a doctor, as an engineer, a researcher, and she has a company in California, and you can call there, which I'm going to do Monday, and you can either speak with a nurse or a doctor. Nurse is $200, a doctor is $300, and they will. You tell them what your cancer is, and give them your documentation, and they've got a database with different varietals of. Varietal is what people commonly call strains. Strains is strains of bacteria. Strain is a virus. It's not a plant. Cannabis is a plant. It's a varietal. So they match you up with how much CBD and THC and CBN and CBG and all the other cannabinoids, and then you go to your dispensary and you get that, and they tell you what dosage to take and how to do it. The Rick Simpson old idea of 60 grams and your cancer's gone is ridiculous. It's just a very generic term. Everybody's endocannabinoid system, ECS, is completely different. That's why it's not done by weight. You could have a 300-pound guy and a 100-pound woman, and they both smoke or ingest the same amount of cannabis, and he could be smashed out cold and she'd be totally fine, unaffected. I just started my pill called Arubanib 2 days ago, and it is the pre-pill. I'll take it for 4 weeks, and then they'll check me with my spinal fluid and an MRI to see what's going on in my brain. There's been some discrepancy on whether or not my cancer's back or not. So my girlfriend Liz and I, who's been a complete godsend, literally sent from the Lord into my life to make my life better, and she has exponentially. Forgot what I was talking about. Residual chemo brain. So about a month and a half ago, I had a grand mal seizure that lasted almost 5 hours, 4 o'clock in the morning. I was rushed to Metro Hospital. They could not stop the seizure. I was intubated. I was life-flighted to Cleveland Clinic. They finally got it to stop. I was in the hospital for a couple days, and they did feel that my cancer was back. But what's bizarre is 2 weeks prior to this seizure, I had an MRI. The MRI showed 2 spots, but the Cleveland Clinic did not feel that they were lesions, cancer, or tumor. So they didn't do anything. They were just going to watch it. 2 weeks later, I have my seizure. Why they didn't do an MRI is beyond me. If this disease is so aggressive, and I'm watching on this central nervous system lymphoma Facebook page, these people dropping like flies, how the hell do you not do an MRI? And the excuse the one doctor said was it wouldn't be cost effective. I'm on Medicare. How is this not cost effective? When did the sense of urgency with this particular disease leave? By the way, this disease is so rare. It's less than 4% of the world's population have this disease. On this Facebook group, worldwide Facebook group, there's only 326 members on it. As far as I know, I am the longest living member on there by considerable, 4 or 5 years. As far as I know, I'm the only one that's really using cannabis. I'm going to reach out Monday and speak to either the nurse or the doctor from Mara Gordon's company called Aunt Zelda's. And I'm going to see what they recommend. I doubt if they've ever had my cancer, but you never know. It's a lymphoma. So, and there's another doctor up on the East Coast named Dr. Dustin Sulak. Very, very impressive. He also has an organization where they help people with medical marijuana. Unfortunately, I live in the state of Ohio, and yes, medically marijuana is legal, but none of the dispensaries are open. And who knows once they get open if they're even going to have quality product.